Greater Media Broadcast News.
Welcome to another edition of Greater Media Broadcast News. I'm Susie Shea, and here are some of the stories we're covering this week. An alternate route for aspiring police officers. A Middlesex County freeholder dies at age 83. A new notification system for Middlesex County residents. Bring school breakfast to students statewide. And the Soul of Hunger event. Many local police departments are taking the alternate route as they attempt to recover from tough economic times. Through the alternate route program, aspiring officers pay their own way through the police academy in hopes that a department will hire them after graduation. For many police departments, this can lead to big savings over the traditional practice of paying for tuition while also providing a salary. The New Jersey Attorney General's office says the number of alternate route graduates nearly doubled in the initial years of the financial crisis as police departments were forced to make cutbacks. The program was reinstated this year after a brief suspension, and for many police departments, that was a welcome change. The bottom line, according to some local officials, is that it makes hiring police officers cheaper and quicker. And here's Mark Rosman with more headlines from this week's papers.
Last week, the Jackson Zoning Board of Adjustment opened hearings on an application from an individual who has plans to build a private high school for Orthodox Jewish girls on Cross Street in Jackson. To proceed with the application, the applicant needs to apply for and receive a use variance from the Zoning Board. The first hearing was held last week, and residents filled the municipal building because they are concerned with several issues regarding this application. Right now, these issues center on economic, traffic, and zoning concerns, and all of these issues will come out in the next few months as this application continues to be heard by the Zoning Board. It's an application that bears watching because it's not common for someone to try to build a high school in a residential zone, yet there are some instances in Jackson where schools have been constructed in residential zones. The Zoning Board will have to hear all of the testimony, and the applicant's attorney will have to provide some positive criteria as to why his applicant believes this would be a benefit to the community. Stay tuned for coverage of this issue in the Tri-Town News.
The days of the milkman are long gone, or are they? Well, the resident of Old Bridge is making sure that the tradition stays alive. Here's Tom Castles.
Many of us may think that the milkman went the way of the dodo bird decades ago, but nostalgia is big business for baby boomers, and business is booming these days for Jeff Milling, a modern-day milkman. Milling, an Old Bridge resident, left his job in advertising 18 years ago to pursue a career in dairy delivery, and quickly found that wistful New Jerseyans with a taste for tradition were happy to support his business. Unlike the milkman of the past, Milling's aptly named company, Utterly Delicious, offers meats, cheeses, eggs, and even seafood. The day in the life of the milkman starts very early and stops for no nasty weather. To find out more about Milling the Milkman and his company, Utterly Delicious, visit gmnews.com.
A candlelight vigil in Eatontown shined a light on the thousands of homeless animals that are euthanized each year. Nicole Antonucci has the story.
The Monmouth County SPCA is shining a light on the thousands of animals euthanized each year. At its first annual Remember Me Thursday event on September 26th, the Eatontown shelter joined animal welfare shelters around the world to raise awareness on the issue. The global campaign encourages communities to adopt and reduce the number of orphan pets euthanized each year. Monmouth County SPCA President Jerry Rosenthal says that his organization has saved 96% of dogs and 90% of cats that it receives, but wants the public to be aware of those who never find their forever homes. According to the Humane Society of the United States, that total is 3.4 million. The Monmouth County SPCA is beefing up its efforts to educate the public and to reach out to those who are looking for pets to place the 500 animals that the group's shelter currently has waiting for adoption.
And here's a roundup of headlines from this week's papers. The flags are flying at half-staff in Middlesex County this week, following the death of the county's longest-serving freeholder. Stephen J. Delina, widely known as Pete Delina, was a lifelong Woodbridge resident who served on the Township Council for 12 years, before being elected as a freeholder in 1990. He was in the final year of his 8th term when he died on Saturday at the age of 83. Middlesex County is offering a new notification system for residents. It's called the Information Notification Network, and it offers traffic, mass transit, municipal, and emergency alerts via text or email. Residents who are registered with the older system have already been transferred to the new network. To learn more about the update, see this edition of the Sentinel. Seabright has introduced $3 million worth of bond ordinances to fund Sandy-related projects. The bonds will fund repairs to municipal and beach facilities, roadways, and infrastructure. A public hearing on the ordinances will be held on October 15th. And here's Mike Pavlichko of Greater Media's WCTC with an update on Rutgers football. You can find more segments on WCTCAM.com. After that, we have Tim Morris with more on local sports.
In the offseason for the Rutgers football team, a number of questions loomed. Who was going to replace some of the key defensive standouts that were lost after last season at graduation? You had Kasim Green and Steve Boharnas, the linebacker spot. In the defensive backfield, you had Logan Ryan, and up front, you had Scott Vallone. Well, as I always like to say, those players didn't always have those reputations. Take Kasim Green, the two-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. He wasn't always Kasim Green as we knew him. Now, this year, Scarlet Knights have seen a number of players break out, but mostly they've been on the offensive side of the ball. Consider Janarian Grant, true freshman, 2 kick returns already for touchdowns. First one against Fresno State in the opener. The second one single-handedly rallied the Rutgers football team back to beat Arkansas. Paul James, PJ, who's going to replace Juwan Jamison, who declared for the NFL draft and left school a year early. Well, Paul James, of course, got hurt a couple games ago, missing SMU and Louisville. Who replaced him but another newcomer, Justin Goodwin, true freshman who single-handedly won the SMU game in triple overtime with a touchdown. And, of course, perhaps the biggest of them all, Leonte Carroo. This guy's going to be a stud. He's actually from Edison, went to Don Bosco Prep, and he swears there's no special connection he has with Gary Nova, his teammate in high school, the Rutgers quarterback now. And, of course, we all know that that's not true. There's something special going on there. Bottom line is, in a couple of years, we're going to be saying the same thing about these players we said about last year's players who graduated. Who's going to replace Janarian Grant, Paul James, Justin Goodwin, and Leonte Carroo? I'm Mike Pavlichko, 1450 WCTC and WCTCAM.com.
Volleyball is a blossoming sport in the area for high school athletes. The talent level has improved dramatically, with the top girls playing for clubs in the off-season and even hitting the Jersey Shore in the summer for beach volleyball. Marlboro High School, here wearing blue in a match with Freehold, has emerged as one of the Shore Conference's elite girls volleyball programs. The Mustangs won the Shore Conference tournament in 2011 and were runner-up last year. This fall, led by the power of number 16, Haley Unger, and number 13, Grace Kenningham, they are undefeated in dual meets and sitting atop the A North Division standings. They could well be on their way to a top seed for the Shore Conference tournament when it begins later this month. This is Tim Morris for Greater Media Newspapers.
Gay rights is a hot topic in New Jersey that even made its way into the gubernatorial debate. Here's About a Minute with Greg Bean.
There was a Quinnipiac University poll in July showing that New Jersey voters overwhelmingly support the right of same-sex couples to marry and enjoy all the benefits of heterosexual men and women in traditional marriages. In fact, over 60% of people in our state support same-sex marriage and only 31% oppose it. Among Democrats, the margin is even greater, with 69% in favor and only 23% opposing. There's even a significant majority among Republicans, with 49% supporting and 39% in opposition. 13 states currently allow same-sex marriage, and the federal government, which now recognizes same-sex marriage partners when it comes to federal benefits, and the United States Supreme Court are also on board. In New Jersey, our lawmakers have listened to the people and passed a law last year to allow it. But there's one man standing in the way and defying the will of the people, the federal government, and the U.S. Supreme Court, and that man is Governor Chris Christie. The governor vetoed the law soon after it was passed and promised to do everything in his power to obstruct it from ever being enacted. He favors civil unions and says the issue should be decided by popular vote, which gay rights activists reject since they believe, as I do, that marriage equality is a civil right and doesn't belong on the ballot. At present, there might not be enough votes in Trenton to override the governor's veto before the January 1st deadline. Last week, District Court Judge Mary Jacobson tried to take it out of the politicians' hands entirely, ruling on a case brought by 6 same-sex couples who argued that by denying same-sex marriage rights, the state is blocking benefits for those couples that the federal government recognizes. Jacobson agreed and gave the state until October 21st to get its act together and allow the unions. But Christie is once again standing in the way. This week, his administration, bypassing the usual district court appeals process, filed an appeal with the state Supreme Court to either block Jacobson's ruling entirely or at least stay it. Gay rights activists are happy that the matter will be before the High Court, which will likely uphold the trial judge's ruling. But I agree with the many who think Christie's tactic is simply a cynical maneuver to distance him from the inevitable, so he won't have the baggage of having been the governor of a state that allows same-sex marriage when he runs for president in 2016. Not my fault, he can tell the ultra-conservatives in the Republican Party. Those other guys did it. It's the same tactic he's used to delay and derail medical marijuana in New Jersey. And once again, good people suffer as he ignores the clear will of the majority to burnish his own conservative creds. Does he even still believe in representative government? I don't know, but on the off chance he finally gets to Washington, I'm sure he'll fit right in. This is Greg Bean for Greater Media Newspapers.
One organization is making strides in ensuring that school children across the state are eating the most important meal of the day, breakfast. Here's Kathy Chang.
In all the papers this week is an article about the 3rd Annual Advocates for Children of New Jersey's Food for Thought School Breakfast Report. Representatives from ACNJ released its report at John Marshall Elementary School in Edison, where breakfast is now being served in classrooms at all of the district's school buildings. To help celebrate the release, New York Giants linebacker Mark Herzlich paid a visit to the school. ACNJ Executive Director Cecilia Zaukin said 3 years ago, New Jersey was ranked 48th among the states to provide breakfast to those students who were eligible. Since the campaign's inception, that has all turned around. According to the report, schools throughout the state are currently feeding breakfast each day to about 48,000 or 35% more low-income children than in 2010.
A panel of area women discussed their personal struggles with hunger and food insecurity during the Soul of Hunger event in Red Bank. Here's Keith Miller.
Area food banks and pantries staged a hunger roundtable event in Red Bank last week to raise awareness and support for the 1 in 7 New Jerseyans who currently don't know where their next meal is coming from. The afternoon event featured passionate talks and testimonials from Governor Chris Christie, culinary celebrity Tom Colicchio, and a panel of local women who are struggling to work and feed their families in a down economy. In this week's Hub, Atlanticville, and Independent newspapers, we break down how hunger is on the rise in Monmouth and Ocean counties and how area officials and nonprofits are working to ensure everyone has a seat at the table.
For more in-depth coverage and additional stories, see your Greater Media newspaper today. This is Susie Xie. Thanks for tuning in.